Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to explore a topic that is often misinterpreted or oversimplified in popular discourse, and that is the nature of emotional attachment, particularly in the aftermath of romantic relationships. Specifically, we're going to examine how emotional attachment can persist even when it's being consciously hidden or denied. Now, one of the foundational psychological truths is this: we are not fully in control of our emotions. We'd like to believe that we can make clean breaks, rational exits, and walk away from emotional investments unscathed. But that's a fantasy. In reality, emotional bonds, once formed, are deeply ingrained into our nervous systems. They don't disappear simply because a relationship ends or because someone decides to appear indifferent. Love doesn't follow the rules of logic. It forms in the unseen layers of our psychology. People think they can decide their way out of emotion, but emotion isn't a courtroom argument. It's a biological force. You don't get to choose who embeds themselves in your nervous system. Emotional attachment is forged in moments when your defenses were down and your heart was open. It lingers in the spaces where vulnerability met validation. We become bonded not because we want to, but because something in us needed to. That need can be unconscious, ancient, and rooted in years of unmet longing. Attachment is memory plus meaning wrapped in emotional intensity. Once that loop is activated, the mind starts organizing itself around that person. That's why forgetting someone isn't a decision, it's a neurological reprogramming. Even after physical separation, the attachment lives on as a mental presence. She might not talk about you, but she still responds to thoughts of you. Her biology doesn't recognize the breakup. It only registers emotional safety and threat. If you once provided comfort, her brain has likely tagged you as home. And when the heart has called something home, it does not evict that memory easily. You don't stop caring just because caring became painful. We often try to numb what we cannot control. But numbing is not detachment. It's unprocessed attachment wearing a mask. Many people mistake silence for indifference, but silence is often screaming internally. When someone is truly indifferent, they don't need silence, they just live. But when someone is still attached, they withdraw because staying present burns. Love that is unresolved turns into a quiet war inside the psyche. She might delete your number, but still feel a jolt every time her phone buzzes. She might avoid places you once went, not because she doesn't care, but because she still does. Avoidance is a trauma response, not a victory over emotion. And trauma responses are not signs of strength, they're signs of overwhelm. Her rational mind may say, "It's over," but her emotional body might say, "I'm still here." Emotional detachment takes time because love stores itself in the routines of the body. She doesn't miss the idea of you, she misses the way you made her feel about herself. That feeling is addictive when it meets unmet emotional needs, and when that feeling is lost, it's not just the relationship that ends, it's the identity she built around it. We bond not only to people, but to who we are when we're with them. So if the person disappears, part of the self goes silent too, and the silence can feel like grief wrapped in confusion. She may think she's done grieving, but grieving love is not linear. It comes in waves, sudden and sharp, like echoes in a canyon of memory. Attachment doesn't fade with the calendar. It fades with insight, healing, and meaning. Time only passes. It doesn't process. She might seem fine now, but don't confuse stability with resolution. People get good at appearing fine while hiding emotional earthquakes beneath the surface. The absence of tears doesn't mean the absence of feeling. Sometimes what looks like strength is just well-practiced suppression. And suppression is dangerous because buried emotions don't dissolve, they distort. They leak out in dreams, irritability, misplaced judgment, and restless nights. The body keeps track of every unresolved goodbye. Her laughter may return, but the subconscious remembers what it once lost. She might build a new life, but the scars of love remain etched in how she now trusts. No one walks away untouched from genuine emotional investment. True attachment alters the blueprint of the self. Even in silence, she could be revisiting conversations in her head that never truly ended. She might replay the good and the bad, not to torture herself, but because closure was never internalized. Closure isn't given, it's built brick by brick in the mind. And she may still be carrying pieces of the emotional puzzle, trying to make sense of what cracked her. Because we don't just move on from people, we move through them. Each attachment leaves behind a psychological fingerprint, and that fingerprint lingers in the subconscious, long after conscious dismissal. You can't logic your way out of a bond that was emotional in origin. Even intelligence bows to unresolved intimacy. People assume decision equals detachment, but decisions are surface level unless integrated emotionally. She may have chosen to walk, but that doesn't mean her soul has caught up. Disconnection can happen in action, yet connection still lives in the shadows. And it's in the shadows that emotional truth waits to be felt. No amount of pretending changes the fact that once the heart says yes, it doesn't easily say never again. That yes becomes a seed that doesn't die. It either grows or it lies dormant, waiting to be healed or triggered. She may appear to have moved on, but the bond might still be pulsing beneath the surface. Because emotional attachment isn't fragile, it's tenacious. It grips to what once made it feel alive. That grip might loosen, but it doesn't vanish without being seen, named, and released. And most people never take the time to do that. They bury, distract, or replace. But the shadow always lingers, shaping future attachments subtly, silently. That's why she may react irrationally to someone new. It's not about them. It's about the unresolved echoes of you. We carry old emotional codes into new chapters. And until they're rewritten, we're still tethered to the last emotional storm. You don't erase what once felt sacred. You learn to live with its imprint. She may be laughing with someone else, but some part of her still compares the emotional safety you once gave. Because attachment isn't measured by presence, it's measured by impact. And impact leaves psychological residue that logic alone cannot scrub away. So if you think she's fine just because she looks composed, you misunderstand the architecture of emotional bonds. Attachment doesn't disappear, it transforms. And that transformation takes more than time, it takes truth. Truth is the only thing stronger than denial. Until she confronts what still lives inside her, the bond is alive, quietly, invisibly, but powerfully. And that bond, hidden beneath logic, may be the very thing she fears to face. Words can lie, but patterns never do. You can hide behind silence, but your habits always tell the truth. When someone says they're over you, but still orbits your world, believe the orbit, not the claim. The subconscious speaks fluently through behavior long before the conscious mind gives permission. Love that's buried doesn't extinguish. It leaps through the seams of routine. You'll see it in the way she pauses when your name is mentioned, even when she acts indifferent. You'll see it in her sudden tension when she walks into a place that holds your memory. She may not reach out, but notice if she still reacts to your presence like a ghost haunting her skin. Emotional investment doesn't need words. It leaves fingerprints on everything a person does. The mind can erase you from logic, but the body keeps a map of every emotional landmark. She might say she's moved on, but if she still watches your stories, she hasn't stopped caring. She's just observing from a distance that doesn't cost her dignity. She might unfollow you, but if mutual friends keep delivering updates about your life, chances are she's still listening without listening. You don't monitor what you've outgrown. You monitor what still stirs something you won't admit. When she dresses a little differently, knowing you might be nearby, that's not fashion. It's emotional residue. If she avoids eye contact but keeps checking the room, she's caught in the paradox of wanting and fearing connection. Discomfort in your presence is not a lack of emotion. It's proof of unresolved tension. Someone who feels nothing doesn't shift posture when you enter the room. They remain still because their world isn't moved. But when someone adjusts their energy, their expression, their breathing, those are the unfiltered metrics of attachment. Emotional investment often hides behind overcompensation. She may act overly happy, unusually expressive, as if trying to convince herself more than anyone else that she's unbothered. The louder the mask, the deeper the wound. Real detachment is quiet, unshaken, uninterested. But performance is loud, calculated, and desperate for validation. If she talks about you too much or avoids your name altogether, both extremes are evidence of presence. True indifference sounds like neutrality, not rehearsed narratives. Pay attention to what she brings up, but also what she avoids. Omission is a language spoken by those who fear what will surface. People live rent-free, and the metaphors she uses to justify the flaws becomes meaningless to you. Not to attack you, but to justify the feelings she hasn't yet killed. People devalue what they can't release. When she casually references someone like you in conversations, it's not accidental, it's displacement. You live rent-free in the metaphors she uses when talking about love and pain. She might romanticize both the past or demonize it, but either way, she's keeping it alive. If she's moved on, she wouldn't need to rewrite the script. She'd just close the book. Even the way she treats new people can reveal what you still mean. If she's colder, more guarded, slower to trust, she's still nursing invisible bruises. We don't reset easily after deep emotional investment. We recalibrate with scars. Her hesitation with others might not be about them. It might be the shadow of you. You changed how she sees safety, and now she sees risk where she once saw home. Watch how she behaves when your name comes up in public. Does her energy shift? Authentic detachment is light, but hidden feelings are heavy and magnetic. She might laugh too loudly or shut down entirely. Both are attempts to control inner chaos. You'll see it in the way she keeps souvenir from your time together, even if tucked away. We don't keep what we've emotionally discarded. We only keep what holds unfinished meaning. If she still remembers the details, dates, songs, inside jokes, then part of her memory is still emotionally coded with your name. When you're truly gone from someone's heart, they don't hold on to symbols, they release the weight. She might speak in general terms about heartbreak, but glance at you like you're the exception. That contradiction is a confession her pride won't translate, and pride often hides the most vulnerable truths. She might tell people she doesn't miss you, but still relive moments that defined her. People don't rehearse memories they've deleted. They rehearse what they secretly wish had ended differently. You might notice her shadow in places she said she wouldn't return. 2, patterns don't lie. They repeat until they resolve. Behavioral echoes are the residue of attachment left unprocessed. And those echoes don't disappear because she silences her phone. They live in her hesitations. She might check who you're with, who you're posting, who you're laughing with, and call it curiosity. But curiosity is just interest without permission, and interest is a form of emotional survival. She wants to see if she still matters, even if she pretends she doesn't want to know. When people say, "I don't care," but continue investigating, they're seeking closure without exposure. She might test you without admitting she's watching. Ignore the silence. Watch the tension in the room. Her gaze might flicker for a moment longer than it should, and in that flicker is everything unsaid. We think behavior is surface, but in psychology it's the most honest expression of attachment. She might react when others bring you up, maybe defensively, maybe dismissively, but always reactively. Reaction betrays investment. If you no longer matter, you become background noise, not a trigger. She may appear stable, but the little cracks in her composure speak volumes. The small fidgets, the emotional withdrawal, the unnecessary emphasis on how happy she is now, all attempts to assert control over emotional chaos. People become actors when their feelings threaten their identity. And she's likely playing a role she doesn't believe, hoping repetition turns it into truth. But authenticity doesn't need repetition, it just is. True detachment is silent, but emotional investment echoes in everything unsaid. Her patterns are the poetry of what her pride can't say aloud. Behavior is the confessional for emotions the ego refuses to reveal. She's not just moving through life, she's navigating the minefield of what she still feels. Watch what she does when she thinks no one is watching, because that's when the truth finally stops hiding. She might delete your photos, but keep your playlists. She might ignore your texts, but stalk your timestamps. She might not reply, but she rereads. Every time she circles your world without entering it, she's making emotional contact through distance, and distance is sometimes the loudest form of longing. She can't walk toward you, but she can't walk away clean either. That tension, that hesitation, that duplicity, those are the ruins of emotional architecture she hasn't demolished yet. And as long as those ruins stand, her patterns will trace